Hello and welcome, everyone. I don't think there's anybody in here right this second, but I will go ahead and say welcome. TS Villa, how are you doing today? Sabby Gamer, how are you doing? How's everybody doing today? Again, as mentioned in previous streams, if there is a little bit of audio lag or video lag, you'll just have to excuse that. That is kind of par for the course until we figure out the latency things. MMA Holes, how are you doing today? Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. If you can't hear me, turn it up. AM Details, what's up, my man? How are you doing today? Welcome to the stream. I'm so glad everybody decided to come in here. Mike, the podcasts are great. I'm glad you enjoy them. Buddy, thanks for this topic today. You can thank Andrew. It's a great topic idea from Andrew. Great idea. And also, Andrew has posted the link to the form that you can go to ask your questions. So today is all about, should you start a podcast? So we are going to wait a couple of minutes to kind of get in the groove and kind of see what's going on and figure out, who all's going to be in here. So that way we can get the information. Biohacker TV, you sound great. Fantastic. I'm so glad that you guys are here. So here's what I'm going to ask you guys to do, who are in the kind of the beginning stages here. You're hitting hard here at the beginning. I want you guys to go over to your social media, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest if you use it, Snapchat, and let people know that we're streaming here on TubeBuddy. So if that's the case, I want you guys to go on over to one of those social channels and share this like crazy. Put the link to this live stream out there. We'll be streaming for the next 45 or so minutes, and I'd love to see us hit the 100 concurrent viewer mark. So what I would love to see is for you guys to go ahead and push that amount of people in here. So the only way we're going to be able to do that is if you guys get in your social media outlets and share like crazy. So welcome, guys. Welcome everyone that is kind of coming in. If you would go on over and share this on your social media, because this kind of value, guys, not me personally, but the value that TubeBuddy brings, we want to bring as many new faces in as possible. So again, Andrew has a link to the Google form that we will be using today to answer all of the questions. So if you have any specific questions to podcasting and what it would do for your YouTube channel or anything of that nature, then I would love for you guys to go and to ask that. So that would be great. I do see a couple of you in there that I know listen to the podcast because of personal messages that I've received from you guys. So I really appreciate you guys coming in over here and joining in on the live stream. I'm trying to do a little more cross promotion of the actual podcast here on the live stream and then vice versa. So on the podcast, I'm trying to let you guys know that every third Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I am going to be doing this live stream. So not only me, I do want to make sure you guys understand that it's going to be myself. Daryl Eves streams on this channel as well. Roberto Blake, we just had him on the YouTube Creators Hub podcast. If you don't know, I do another YouTube-centric podcast. So I do two podcasts in related to YouTube. Now, I do want to show you over here on my screen, if you guys can see, I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bigger here. But as you can see over here, this is the TubeBuddy Express podcast, the podcast that we do, branded and under the TubeBuddy umbrella is called the TubeBuddy Express podcast. So with that being said, this podcast already has 35 episodes under our belt. We've got 35 episodes of great actionable tips ranging from 8 minutes all the way up to 20 minutes on the longer end. And then as you can see here, some of the ones that we did, how to get your first 500 subscribers, how to create social media strategies for your YouTube channel, basic equipment to start a YouTube channel. So as you can see, guys, this is going to be a one-stop shop for you to come in here and you can listen to all of the older episodes and really, really get some value out of it. And again, it's not me, it's just some research that we've done, and I really think you guys can help us grow the TubeBuddy Express podcast, and that's why today we're talking about podcasting. And I'm going to be kind of telling you my story about how podcasting has helped me grow my channel to a new level, and how podcasting has helped me grow my brand, not just my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is growing alongside the podcast. So welcome all of you new guys that are coming in, all of you that are saying that you hear the podcast and you listen to it. You guys never know how much I appreciate you guys coming in here telling me that. That means a lot to know that all of that work that I'm doing is not, going unnoticed. I really enjoy doing the podcast. It's one of the most fun things that I do every week. And one of the things that I am actually, I guess, the most proud of when it comes to podcasting and this podcast is the consistency. So basically what happens is when we started back in July of last year, I have not missed a Friday. Even going through Christmas and all of that good stuff, I've been very consistent. And that's the first point that I want to make when it comes to creating a podcast or when you're creating YouTube videos or trying to grow a YouTube channel, okay? So with that being said, I want to let you guys in on a little secret. The more consistent that you are with your YouTube channel, with your podcast, with your content, the more growth you're going to see within your channel. So as you can see here with the TubeBuddy Express podcast, if I pull it back up, one of the main things about this podcast is that people know every Friday they're going to get a new podcast in their feed. So remember that. And also, guys, for those of you just slipping in, we do have a Google form that has some information about questions that you can ask, questions about podcasting or questions about TubeBuddy on that form. So I would really appreciate you guys go on over there and to do that. So that would be fantastic. So a lot of people are asking to explain how to use TubeBuddy. We've got great tutorials on how to do that. Daryl's got great tutorials. I have a tutorial on my YouTube channel walking you through the process of how to use TubeBuddy, from beginner phases all the way to ending phases. So don't forget, you can go on over and look at the Google Doc or the Google form and figure out what questions you want to ask and then go from there. So as you can see, again, over here is our podcast page here on iTunes. iTunes is going to be like the YouTube of audio podcasting. That's where you're going to want to put all of your feeds. So if you ever do a podcast, you're going to want to make sure that you upload it, your RSS feed, to iTunes, because that's where you're going to be getting most of your traction. That's where you're going to be getting most of the love and the good stuff. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And then Andrew also makes another great point. He says that he also runs the tips and tricks on the TubeBuddy YouTube channel itself. So if we actually go over here and take a look at the TubeBuddy YouTube channel, you're going to see a ton of YouTube videos that are uploaded on a weekly basis of how to use TubeBuddy. You're going to see that along with, like you can see here, all of our live streams that we've done in the past. So if we go over here, we can see that Andrew just did one about bulk updating end screens. So that's fantastic. So guys, again, if you have any question, also Google Play. Mike also makes a good point. If you're doing a podcast, Google Play is another great place to go ahead and house your podcast. So MMA says, TubeBuddy has been a ridiculously useful tool for me. Thanks so much. Well, man, you are very, very welcome. So, again, guys, don't forget to share this live stream on your social media outlets. I would love to have new people come in and out and hopefully learn about TubeBuddy and podcasting and whatnot. So the first thing I want to let you guys know about today is going to be about the bulk editing tool. So think about it this way. If you go to one of my YouTube channels, so if you go to one of my not YouTube channels, if you go to one of my YouTube videos, in the description of that video, you are actually going to see a link to my podcast. So what if I had to go through and started a new podcast and I had to go through there and I actually had to go in and put that link in every single one of my videos? That would be a horrible experience. So as you can see here, all of the different links here, and then right here, I actually have the link to the podcast right here. Listen to our podcast. If I were to have to go in and do that individually, that would be extremely, extremely excruciating. So what you do is you go over to your videos. So we're obviously underneath the TubeBuddy Express podcast. So with that being our YouTube channel. So with that being said, if we go to one of the videos, so let's say we go to this one here that Andrew created about bulk updating end screens. And we go down here, we're going to be able to bulk add end screens and bulk edit them. So if we go up here, click on the down arrow right here, you're going to see a few different tools, okay? You're going to see all of our tools. This is the easiest way to actually navigate to the tools right here, okay? So the one that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to do the end screens and all of that good stuff to make sure that when we go in here, we're adding them all to all of our videos. So you can also click this the quick links option, which will be right here. Look at that. There's my face right there in my link. That's amazing. Right here underneath. If you ever want to know about anything going on with TubeBuddy, you can click on the quick link option right here, and you can do that all from within this page here. And then you can also see the different tools and all of that good stuff there. So let's go back to exactly what we were doing. So if we go to the end screen and annotations right here, we're going to see the new end screen options and annotations. But what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our video manager. And then once we're here, we're going to click on the TubeBuddy tool that allows us to do all of this good stuff here and to figure out where we want to go in and add the end screens and add all of that good stuff. So if we go to cards and go to copy, that one doesn't include any cards. But if we go here under the TubeBuddy tool, we can actually go and take a look at all of the different stuff that we can do with a specific video. So with this one here, and for those of you who don't know, the annotations feature, like the old annotations feature, is actually going out of style. And when I mean going out of style, I mean it's going away. I don't know why I said going out of style. But if we're wanting to bulk edit or, do things to multiple videos, which this is one of my, most favorite features about TubeBuddy. So we would select a video. So let's select this video. Let's select this video, and then go to our bulk options up here. And then what we would do is underneath cards or end screens or under descriptions, that's a good one as well. We would go and we would go to find, replace, and append. So this is going to allow us to find specific text. So we can find specific text here and then replace that text with other, like our link to our podcast. So if we have something we want to remove, we can do that here, or we can just insert after or insert before. So if you have a video that has a description and you want to enter your link for your podcast, okay, then what you would want to do is go to insert after text. This would insert after your description on your YouTube channel, on your YouTube video, and then underneath that, it would actually have the text that you add here on every single one of your videos. And that's amazing when it comes to podcasting and all of that good stuff. AM Details asks, is it worth uploading the podcast as a video? I've tried to do both, to be honest with you. I've done a few different things, right? So I've uploaded an audio version of specific podcast episodes to my YouTube channel to get a different audience. But it really depends on the type of show that you're doing, who's doing it with you, and your audience on YouTube. Now, there are video podcasts that you can do and upload to like iTunes and to Google Play. And that costs a lot more money because unlike YouTube, you're having to pay someone to host all of that video content. So it really just depends. It really just depends. So it's one of those things. And also, for those of you asking the tools that I'm using, I'll do a stream all about live streaming if you guys would like for me to. But again, if you're doing a video podcast, it needs to add value to what you're doing. The reason why TubeBuddy has chosen to do an audio podcast and allowed me to be a part of it is because in tandem, it's another tool, it's another asset, it's another branch on our tree that allows us to go and to do things. So it allows us to reach new audience members. So I'm going to start answering some questions. If you have any questions, please put those in the Google form that Andrew has so kindly generated for us. So we're going to go ahead and start with a question from Blake Grigsby. His question was great. His question says, if a podcast format benefits from a co-host, would it be recommended to find another social influencer to be the co-host, or should you focus on finding a talented partner be more beneficial? I think there's going to actually be benefits to, there's going to be benefits to all of it, right? So you're going to see one of those situations to where if you do have a social influencer, but they're not talented, they probably aren't a social influencer. So I think they're going to be one in the same, right? So it's one of those things to where it's like, if you do one of those situations where you have a brand influencer, let's say Roberto, who's doing great stuff on this channel and his personal brand, He is an influencer, but he's also very talented and knowledgeable about the topic. So with that being said, I think you would do both. Gear Candy, thank you for the $2. Hey guys, check out my channel. Go check out his channel, Gear Candy, guys. Go check him out. We really appreciate that, and we really appreciate the support. I do personally. Now, when it comes to podcasting, you want to have a co-host that you mesh with, someone that you can have a conversation with without it sounding awkward. You don't want to have someone on your show who you just have a lot of dead air, a lot of dead space. So remember that when picking a co-host, and they have to be very, very dedicated, because podcasting is a lot of work, and if you're going to be consistent, it's a lot of work. Don't forget to submit your questions. If you have those, I will call out your name and then ask your question as well. All right. LOLU2, that's a good name, asked the question, should I rely on someone else to edit my podcast, or should I produce less so I have time to edit your normal videos as well? It's one of those situations where if you have the time to do it, it's a good learning experience. And the way I always say it to myself, if I do something myself, then I know it's going to be done right. You know, you would need to do some research and to find people who actually do that for a living. I personally, I'm an audio engineer. I studied a lot of that stuff in school. I also do a little voiceover work. So one of the things that I offer as a service is editing podcasts. So I have very select few podcasts that work with me on a professional basis, on a week-to-week basis. They send me their files, and I put together their podcast. I edit it fully, and I send it into them, but they're paying me for that. So not only are you giving it to another person to take responsibility for, but you are also, for the majority of the time, you're having to give them money as well. So you're having to pay out of pocket, and that's something that is one of those situations to where it's like, it's your baby, kind of, your podcast is, but you're having to pay someone else to do the editing. And it all depends on your specific situation. So kind of go with that. Don't forget to submit your questions, guys, if you have those. Great question, by the way. The one guy 27 has another great question. Should I get a USB mic or an XLR mic? What is the main difference? Is there a difference? Thanks. There's definitely a difference. Not a very big difference, but there is one. So let's talk about XLR and what that is, and let's talk about a USB mic. The microphone that you see here, the microphone that you're seeing, you can't really see it because I don't want you to, I'm trying to keep it out of my, I guess you would say, stream here, but I'm going to go ahead and go full screen. Hello, welcome. You can see my face really bright now. This microphone here, I'm going to try to pull it up to where it doesn't make a really big noise, but this microphone here is an XLR microphone. It has an XLR jack input right here that's going into what I call an audio what everybody calls an audio interface. The audio interface that I use is called the Scarlett 2i2. It's a wonderful audio interface that is really, really good, very professional grade. You don't have to have something of that nature, but I would recommend an XLR microphone if you're going to do this for a living or do this for your business. Now, I also have a USB microphone that I recommend. It is called the Blue Yeti microphone. Now, I think I have it, if you guys can bear with me. This is what I call a box of microphones, right? So I've got all of my cables and whatnot in here. This microphone here, again, as you can see, this microphone is an XLR microphone. If it doesn't go directly from USB to your computer, then it's more than likely it's an XLR microphone, or it's one of those things to where it's an over-the-head microphone. I would not recommend those. I see a couple people asking about the audio lag with the stream. Unfortunately, the way that it's compressed, I've done a little research, there's going to be a little bit of audio lag. I apologize for that, and it may be your connection as well. So that's the XLR microphone, and the cables will look something like this. I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but the cable will be something that looks like that. So again, is there a difference? If you get a good USB microphone, probably not. But I would recommend, if you can afford the money to go ahead and get the XLR microphone and audio interface like the Scarlett 2i2. But what a great question. What a great question. I feel like I'm at show and tell at school right now, and I've got my box of toys there for you guys to take a look at. So, all right, we're getting some more questions. Another great question, though. AM Details asked the question, is it worth uploading your podcast as a video to YouTube with generic video for graphics or just a picture as the video? You know what? I've got mixed feelings about that. Who asked this question? AM Details asked the question about this. It's one of those things to where it's, if you're just doing a static graphic with audio on top of that graphic, it's one of those situations to where it's, I don't know if that's at all beneficial. If you're going to do a video podcast, something that I would recommend doing is to record your video talking to that person. So have the situation where you're actually talking to the person and you can see yourself on screen. Use a piece of software like Zoom. I work with the client every week that they record an interview on Zoom, and then I go and edit it for them in Premiere Pro, and that seems to work very well for them. They do an audio and a video podcast as well. So look into that, but I'm not sure that I do it every now and then for specific podcast guests. I'll put them on my YouTube channel, but it's very, very rare that I do that. I'm just not sure that there's a reason why we don't do it on the TubeBuddy YouTube channel. There's a reason why we don't do it. And that reason is because I don't see that much benefit out of it. So next question here. Next question is from Dato Marachi. Hey, Dusty, don't know if you answered this question already, but do you know when your channel is in the right place to do a podcast? By the way, loved your podcast. Keep it up. Well, I appreciate the kind words. We'll call you Dato, right? I appreciate the kind words. Thank you very much. When is your channel ready to do a podcast? I think it's ready when you're ready. When you had the time, when you know, here's when you know you're ready. When you have the target audience laid out. When you know to yourself and you say to yourself, okay, here's the avatar for my podcast. Here's who I'm trying to reach. That's when you know you're ready to do a podcast. It's one of those situations to where it's like, it's kind of like when you're ready, you'll know it. So that's kind of how it goes. MMA, what's my YouTube channel? The link is in the description. But if you are looking for my YouTube channel, I am the technology guru on YouTube. So I do a lot of video tutorials and things like that. Andrew just put the link in the chat over on the right if you're looking to kind of check out and see what I do over on YouTube. Now, let's move over to another question and see what we have. Next question we have coming from Como Vivir Porfe. How hard is it to get a following with a podcast versus on YouTube? I found it to be about the same. The only difference, Como, is that the analytics tools, like if you go into like the analytics here on YouTube, we're going to take a look over here at the analytics tools. YouTube has a very robust tool set when it comes to analytics. So I can go here, I can see the different watch time, I can see the audience retention, I can see the types of people who are watching my content. And then when it comes to podcasting, there's not that much that you can take a look at as far as metrics. So as far as building an audience, it is much easier to kind of take note of your audience over on YouTube as opposed to iTunes or a podcast. Now, Libsyn is my host. So like if we go over here to Libsyn and take a look. So I'm going to log into Libsyn. Libsyn is the host. So if you do a podcast, you have to have someone to host your audio. So I'm going to go ahead and log into Libsyn here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to let's say the YouTube Creators Hub. So what we're going to see here is, as you guys can see on the screen here, you're going to see my Libsyn account. Here's the stats for like the YouTube Creators Hub podcast. So today so far, we've had over 2,100 people download and listen to the show. The YouTube Creators Hub podcast is a very popular podcast. It's doing very well. And with that being said, I'm able to go in here and look and see, oh, wow, if I scroll back, here's kind of how the show has grown and things like that. But you see, there's really no metrics as like there are in YouTube. So it's a big difference in Libsyn as it is into YouTube. So it definitely is a big difference in what you can do and that kind of thing. So let's go on over and answer another question. I see a bunch more questions coming in. Thank you guys so much for the support. Jerry ask, how did you get TubeBuddy to get a sponsor? How would we get sponsors for our podcast? Okay, so good question. Great question. How I got the sponsor for TubeBuddy. I used TubeBuddy for almost a year, 9 to 10 months. I was looking earlier, and then I thought to myself, we're gaining traction on the podcast. You know what? I got to figure out who's in charge of this TubeBuddy thing. Did some research. I cold emailed Phil, and Phil, being the nice, generous person that he is, emailed me back about a couple of days later and said, hey, I would be interested in doing a sponsorship deal with you. We worked out the agreement and the arrangement. And then as he worked with me, he thought I would be a good fit to do the podcast for TubeBuddy as well. And that's kind of how that went along as well. But really, finding the companies you want to work with and emailing them. You got to have the guts to go and do that, because really, when in the world that we live in, you've really got to go out there and do that. So if you want your question answered, guys, put them in the form. Great question, though. Man, you guys are full of great questions today. Details. Can we still use our video software to podcast, edit, and export? For example, use Premiere Pro. Yes, you can just export it as audio. Something that I do for a lot of my audio content sometimes I do, let's just say I do wedding videography sometimes, and I want to capture just the audio of, say, the vows or something like that. Then I will go into my Premiere Pro. I use Premiere Pro or ScreenFlow or a tool like that. When you do that, what you're going to want to do is go to File Export and then choose the format you want to export from and just export it as an MP3. Never export a podcast as a WAV file. It's way too big, and the podcast players just don't play nice with it. So make sure you export your podcast as an MP3. So that's a little pro tip for you there, is to do the export your podcast as an MP3. Jerry, I believe, AM Details, great question. Next question comes from Gear Candy. Does adding translated captions really help for views? It can. Let's say you do something like I do, and you do tutorials. When you do tutorials, it's one of those situations to where it's like, let's see. When you do tutorials, people are coming there to figure out how to do something. So with that being said, if there's someone who doesn't speak English, wants to figure out how to do something I'm showing off, then of course, why not put Spanish subtitles or another type of subtitle to get people from a different location to be able to go on there and to get that information. So it's great. Raymond asked, Dusty, are you doing collabs or interviews? I do collabs on my YouTube channel very, very frequently. And then every week on the YouTube Creators Hub, I do a collaboration and interview every single week, every Wednesday. So good night, Desi. Hope you have a great night. Let's go on and move to the next question. But great question. Captions are always helpful. Frankie's 21. You have had guests on the TubeBuddy podcast before. How do you get guests for your own podcast? I email them or send them a direct message on Twitter. It's that easy. I find them, seek them out, do a little internet stalking, and then boom, send them an email. Very nice email. Send them a very, very nice email and go through there and send them a very, very nice email about how to, I guess you would say, how to do that. So Biohacker, man, thanks for the donation. I appreciate that. All the donations are very helpful. He says, oops, so he probably didn't mean to do it, right? But it's one of those situations to where it's like you have to understand kind of what you're wanting to accomplish with that. Ask your question, Biohacker. That'll be fine. When it comes to getting guests on your podcast, it's one of those situations to where it's like you got to understand that people are busy and you don't want to take up all their time. So when you when you email them or send them a message on Twitter, be very brief about it. Be very quick and say, hey, here's what you're going to get out of the podcast. Here's what I'm going to get out of the podcast. One of those things. Free American Spirit ask, you need to understand that be very careful when it comes to the length of your podcast. And I can cover that here shortly. Press News Network. How can I grow my YouTube channel? We've covered that on this show. I would highly recommend going and watching a bunch of the YouTube gurus out there. Myself, Roberto, Daryl Leaves. If you go to iTunes, there's great resources like podcast, like the TubeBuddy Express show, as well as the YouTube Creators Hub podcast. Like you see here, I've got over 55 interviews. So it's one of those things to where it's, go on over there, use the resources that are available to you, and understand that it's Biohacker. How do you get people to collab with you? It's one of those things to where you've got to be open and honest with people and message them, and don't message someone who's got hundreds of millions of, thousands of subscribers. Make sure they're in the same realm as you are, and make sure when you want to collab with someone, you're polite about it, and you're like, hey, here's what you're going to get. Here's the benefits for you. Here's what I'm going to get as well. So understand when you're collaborating with people that you need to have a mutual benefit for those people. So when you collab with people, it's very important to understand that their time is valuable, as is yours. So understand that and know that going forward. Definitely a very important thing to remember when it comes to that. So great question though. We really appreciate your support, and we really appreciate the donation. Thank you so much. Let's move on to the next question. Another great question here from Shannon. Should I do podcasts live or pre-record them? Oh, a great question. If you do them live, how do you get good moderators like the ones that TB, I assume you mean Total Biscuit, has? Great question. I am working on figuring out a way to do more live streaming for my podcast. I think that with the situation like it is now, with live streaming going to get more and more, I guess, I don't know how to put this, with live streaming getting more and more, I guess you would say, common. People are going to want to watch live streams. That's why Twitch and places like that's why YouTube Live, like what we're doing now, is very important. It's going to be a situation to where when you live stream your podcast, you're able to actually go in, and you're actually able to interact with your audience, like what I'm doing now. Oh, TubeBuddy. TB means TubeBuddy. What was I talking about? TB, TubeBuddy. What am I talking about, right? Like the ones that TubeBuddy has. So when it comes to, we do have good moderators, like Andrew. He's the best. He's the best in the business, man. The best in the business. I don't know why I was thinking Total Biscuit, right? But anyways, it is important to have good moderators. It is extremely important to have, if you're going to go live, to understand how you're going to do it. It took us a while to get this to even to the point that it is now, and Andrew and I are going to continue to improve. So it's one of those things. Gear Candy, you're exactly right. There is a ton of trash out there. Could not agree more. Next question. Buddy Karchide asks, can you podcast with an Android phone? Yes, you can. You can absolutely podcast with an Android phone. There are multiple ways to do that if you want to podcast with an Android phone. There's free apps you can download from the Google App Store. And basically what you'll do is you'll push the record button on your phone, record it, save the file as an MP3, upload it to your computer, your desktop, edit it that way, and then boom, you've got your podcast right there, ready to roll. It's a beautiful thing. You can podcast from almost anything now. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool how that works. So beautiful, beautiful. All right. Let's go to the next question. All right, so that question was not available. Olaf Killer. You don't want to kill Olaf, right? You do a League of Legends podcast, but you want to expand past the League. What would you recommend? Well, if you do a League podcast and you've branded it to be League, I would recommend that you don't put it under the same feed. If you're gonna do if you're going to do it, definitely make sure that that you're doing the podcast under a different feed and a different name. But the way that you can do it is you can actually go in and advertise on your League of Legends podcast for your new podcast. So like if you notice what I do on the TubeBuddy Express show, I cross-pollinate. I go in and I go to YouTube, Creators Hub Podcast, every Wednesday, and I advertise for the TubeBuddy Express show. So it's one of those things to where you can cross-promote between multiple different shows. So it's fantastic. It's fantastic. And for those of you who want to know what a super chat is, I had a couple of people ask me what a super chat is, and I had to learn all about it. It's when someone donates to like live streaming. Gear Candy and Biohacker have donated thus far during this stream, and it's where you can donate and people can see that you've donated on stream, and people can, normally what happens is those people who donate get their information read out. Normally is how you do it on a live stream. So it's one of those things to where it's kind of like Twitch with their bits and things like that. So great question. Techie Pocket says something of the nature of, I'm stuck at 33 subs for 3 months now. What should I do to grow more? Again, those questions are extremely hard to answer because I don't know very much about your channel. It's one of those things to where it's like I'd have to do more of a deep dive into your channel and see the kind of content that you're uploading, what you're doing with your tags and your titles and all of that good stuff. So that's definitely important. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. I don't know if you guys can hear me or what happened. I do apologize for that. Uh-oh. All right, guys. I think that I'm back online now. I do apologize for that. I'm not sure what happened. I didn't change any settings. I do apologize about that, guys. So sorry about the situation. All right, so I believe we had a few more questions underneath here. Would you ever do a video version of the TubeBuddy Express podcast? Yeah, I think I would. I think Andrew and I would need to work together to figure out what would work best on the TubeBuddy YouTube channel, but I definitely wouldn't eliminate that option, right? So, excuse me, guys. I wouldn't eliminate the option of doing a TubeBuddy Express podcast in the future. So, very, very cool. So let's see. If you have any more questions, guys, you can put those in the Google form, and we can see kind of what's going on with that. I see we lost a few viewers, but they're trickling back in here. So yeah, I would definitely do a video. When Techie Pocket says you're stuck at 33 subs, I think I've already approached that question. It's one of those things to where it's like it depends on the type of YouTube channel. There's so much more to go into that. Would you say you should do the podcast on another medium other than YouTube? Not necessarily, no. YouTube and podcast can work in tandem, but the question that was asked in regards to video podcasting was, what platform would I put it on? And if I'm going to do a video podcast, I don't think the best outlet to do that is to go in and put a static image and then put audio behind that. I don't think that's the best way to do it, because I just don't think I've learned from experience, you don't get that much feedback from doing it that way. I got a couple of questions, people asking me, what is a podcast? A podcast is a certain amount of time of content that you upload, either video or audio, and it's basically like a talking head. Like the TubeBuddy Express podcast, I get on there, I talk about a YouTube topic that day, I cover that topic, kind of like a radio show. If you ever listen to radio, it's kind of like a radio show. So it's pretty neat that way. So if you ever listen to the radio, which you probably have, that's kind of what it is. So that's basically it. A bunch of people in the chat talking about how they're going to try to start growing their channel, and you're bouncing ideas off each other. I love that. Next question from Donnie. How do you not get hung up on topics? I have issues, transitions to new topics, and struggle. How could I get better? It's practice, man, and research. But no, there are times when I wake up and, on Monday, and I'm like, man, what's this week's TubeBuddy Express podcast going to be about? Then something will just strike me in the shower or in bed, and I'll just jot it down or get open my phone and type it in the note app and say, oh, we're doing this. This is the topic. I think for the TubeBuddy Express podcast, I've got like topics lined up till like the end of April, almost beginning of May. Situations to where it's all about you taking advantage of when you come up with that information. Grim Deed says no static image, so just a blank screen with audio. No, not a blank screen with audio. If you're going to do a video podcast, my recommendation, as I've just mentioned, is to actually record the video of like what you see here, what you see with my face, what I'm doing on screen. Do it that way. If you're going to do a video podcast, that's what I would recommend. I've seen that to work the best. If you don't have anyone to moderate, can you go back and delete the comments after the live stream? Yes, you can do that. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. Next question from Techie Pocket. Your channel's a tech channel. How do you make your channel get exposure? I'd be very happy to get 10 true fans. I hear you, man. I'd be happy too. Again, it's really based on, it's channel by channel. You have to be committed. You've got to have a certain amount of talent. You've got to be consistent. You've got to produce great quality content on a consistent basis. So again, if you're doing all of that and you're still not getting fans, I would need to take a look. All right, so any more final questions about podcasting or YouTube or anything that's beyond what we've talked about before? How does it work with TubeBuddy, the title suggestions? Well, with TubeBuddy, again, people ask me all the time, well, if I get TubeBuddy, that means I'm going to have more subscribers, right? TubeBuddy will help you get there. Yes, it's not going to automatically give you thousands of subscribers, but yes, TubeBuddy is the tool that has helped me get to where I am now. Yes, I think TubeBuddy, I heard a noise behind me. I'm sorry. I think TubeBuddy is a huge, huge asset. So yeah. You notice that you have some videos that are viral. What I tell people all the time, Techie, is that I would like to have a YouTube channel that has 0 viral videos, but that has hundreds of consistent videos that are getting more and more views each and every week and month. That's kind of my opinion. But again, that's coming from more of a business side of things because I want to grow a community. I want to grow an audience when it comes to TubeBuddy. So that's kind of where I'm at. Next question coming from Jake. What if you cover topics that are more raunchy on our podcast? Will that hurt our chances in getting sponsors? Also, love you, Dusty. Big inspiration. Love you too, man. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me. It'll hurt your way of getting sponsors, certain sponsors, of course. You know, I mean, you're not going to get Disney to sponsor you if you're talking about raunchy stuff, but it definitely won't. Just shoot me a message after the stream's over, Jake, and I'd love to talk to you about your podcast. Anybody for that, just shoot me a message, and I'd love to talk to you guys about that. So it's one of those situations to where it's like you want to have a sponsor that you represent, that you're proud of, and that you use. So it's one of those situations to where if you would use the... I just knocked over my drink there. I apologize. I had a phone call and vibrating. I do apologize. But yes, definitely when you're getting a podcast sponsor, be very careful of who you get. I better pick up my charger there. Any last questions before we end the live stream? We've been going now for almost 46 minutes. You can find me on Twitter at TechGuru77. You can message me on my YouTube channel. You can find us, TubeBuddy Express, Dusty at YouTube, CreatorsHub.com. So many ways to get in touch with me. I'd love to chat with you guys more in depth about podcasting and kind of moving forward. I'm very passionate about podcasting and that platform and that medium. So in closing, I do want to let you guys know that I highly recommend, if you're interested in doing podcasting, to just start doing it. Just start working, right? Thank you so much for all of you who have been here today. We're about 52 minutes in. We've had a lot of great questions, and I believe that we've actually had some really deep questions that can help people. Don't forget to go on over to TubeBuddy Express for the podcast on iTunes, Google Play. Take a listen there. Don't forget to subscribe to the TubeBuddy YouTube channel, which you're watching right now. Andrew does a great job of doing all of that good stuff. And guys, until next month, I'm going to be here for the third Tuesday. Andrew's doing a great job setting us all up. But every third Tuesday, you shall see me here in my beautiful mug on the TubeBuddy YouTube channel. Thanks to Phil, thanks to Andrew, thanks to everybody that made this happen. Don't forget to share this video after it goes live here on YouTube on the TubeBuddy channel, and we'll go with that. Guys, thanks again. Thanks for the support, and we will see you guys next time.